Hello, my name is Stephen Costigan,
And my name is Mark Potufer.
and this is our presentation on pseudocode design technique for CS365 Software Engineering 1. So for starters, what is pseudocode? Pseudocode is a method for representing code in a simplified, less structured way intended for human consumption. Pseudocode is written such that the user, rather than the computer, is the processor, and it is written in such a way that almost any reader can understand it. Pseudocode can be used as a method for planning code, brainstorming of ideas, or representing the functions of code to a consumer. Pseudocode cannot be executed directly and must be interpreted to a chosen language before it can be implemented in a function. Pseudocode can be used to teach more advanced systems such as algorithms to students. This allows readers or stakeholders to understand more complex functions more easily. Pseudocode can also be done with images and flowcharts as shown on the right. In this case, the flowchart is used to represent conditional aspects of the pseudocode. So for the pseudocode here, we can see that what is happening is this is an operation or an algorithm for a moving robot, which is trying to get from point A to point B. I created this image here for explanation. And what the code does is it makes the robot move in a certain direction, whether that be this direction or any direction. And when it hits a wall, it it remaps its course and is able to map out its area using this function here. So it'll find the shortest distance to this object here. And so what the way that it does that is it calculates the distance it is from that object and tries to find the shortest route. And so it works in many cases like a Boolean expression where it will set certain areas or set certain parts of the map as either traversable or not traversable. And there's obviously a reference here to that.
So throughout the years, I see pseudocode as a blueprint to a solution to a coding problem or an algorithm. Moreover, I have come to view it like a map you can use to write your code. Also, to communicate your solution with others despite the programming language you may decide to use it in the future. You can use pseudocode to express your thoughts behind your solution, even with people who don't know much about coding. Since it is language independent and can be used by most programmers, it allows the developer to express the design in plain and natural language. It is easier to develop a program from a pseudocode as compared to the flowchart. Programmers do not have to think about syntax. We simply have to concentrate on the line logic. The focus is on the steps to solve a problem rather than how to use the computer language. Often, it is easy to translate pseudocode to a programming language, a step that can be accomplished by a less experienced programmer. The use of words and phrases in pseudocode, which are in the lines of a basic computer operations, simply simplify the translation from the pseudocode algorithm to the specific programming language. And also, the pseudocode allows programmers to work in a different computer languages to talk to others that can be viewed by groups easier than the real code. Next slide. Although the pseudocode is a very simple mechanism to specify problem solving logic, it has some of the limitations that are listed below. So pseudocode does not provide a visual representation of the output of the program. Pseudocode also does not have any standard or accepted standards or format for writing pseudocode, meaning that there can be very large variations between companies or individuals. And this can be very time consuming. Pseudocode cannot also be compiled nor executed. And as I said, there are no real formative of syntax of rules. And also, The correctness of pseudocode cannot be verified as it cannot be compiled by a program. Next slide.
So now a little bit of a demonstration. What we have over here is a very basic syntax for some pseudocode where a vector object is created and then looped through with keyboard inputs to create objects in the vector array. And then after that, they add the values of the vector presented to the user. And the example does not use any strict syntax, as you can see. The word begin is just a very vague word that shows the beginning of the program, and end shows the ending of the program. And it's written almost like a sentence. So begin initialize vector object of int type. Readers can look at the pseudocode and get a grasp for what is happening, even if they don't understand the how. In this example, the pseudocode has expressed how one would add the values to a vector int object and then display them to the user, as I said. Now here's a representation of the actual code for the previous pseudocode. Here is what the actual code might look like. You may notice that the pseudocode version only used one loop, where in this one we have a for loop and a while loop. The actual code as used uses a Boolean expression which wasn't declared previously. In this one we have bool end equals false, and then while end isn't true, we continue this loop. So in this case, we obviously initialized our vector integer, have created an input integer, and as long as input does not equal 0, we continue to add values to the vector. Add values to the vector. And then when we're completed with this loop and receive a 0, the boolean of end is made to true, and then we're passing out of the while loop into the new for loop, which increments through the values of the vector, which then outs each one on a new line.
So for the recommendations, at the start of my coding journey, I just wanted to write code. I wanted to skip writing the pseudocode because I will get impatient and translate my thoughts into code directly without proper organization. Um, I, Nonetheless, after a lot of hassle, trying to figure out like what I was doing, I started to appreciate using pseudocode. Learning to appreciate the value of pseudocode has been an excellent lesson for me as a student and as a programmer. Pseudocode can help you organize your thoughts, then translate them into code. Since a large part of this class relies on planning, pseudocode will be an excellent way to plan out and run a basic program. Pseudocode is also intended for human readers, which is perfect for a stakeholder who is likely not acquainted with the programming languages that would be required to produce the final solution. With no defined style of writing, pseudocode can be tailored directly for the stakeholder and also allow him or her to get a feel for the inner workings of the program without ever having to look at the code. We feel that pseudocode can be an excellent way to approach the planning of a homework scheduling app. This will likely take the form of an action flowchart as demonstrated earlier and allow for segmentation of the pseudocode. Thank you.